My boyfriend showed up to a birthday party my husband planned for me and would not leave me alone. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I have been cheating on my husband since the moment we got engaged. This is a horrible confession, but the guilt has been eating at me for 6 years now. Long story short, I've gone on over 100 dates, but I met this guy that would eventually become my boyfriend, even though I'm still married. My husband and I began to fight about money because we had investment properties together. I became so resentful that I didn't care about cheating on him. Now the problem is I told my boyfriend that I was leaving my husband. Everything culminated on my birthday. My boyfriend found out that my husband was planning a Bridgerton theme party for me. And if you're wondering how he found out, he saw my husband's Instagram story. While we're at the party, my boyfriend shows up and I see him right away. I leave for 40 minutes, only to end up breaking up with my boyfriend because I couldn't have him ruin everything. Me and my husband divorcing means a huge financial loss for me. He was so upset, but at the same time, that's when the guilt of cheating on my husband for this long really hit me. I've exited all the dating apps and essentially blocked hundreds of men. I don't know if I can be faithful, but I sure will try. Or should I try to get my ex back? My husband spent all my money on another woman. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's sent me on Instagram. My disgusting loser husband is a serial cheater. He's cheated so many times I've lost count. We've been married for 5 years, and 1 year into our marriage, I found out he was cheating on me with my nail tech. He always insisted on going with me to the nail salon. He would drop me off and then pick me up, bring us coffee, and I thought he was doing it because I was his wife. He was just trying to get in her pants. After I found out he was cheating on me the first time, I told everyone at a family dinner. I outed him in front of his parents and his siblings and my parents. But his parents did not want us to get a divorce. They convinced me to stay with him because he was going to be on his best behavior, blah, blah, blah. But when I forgot, my husband never really had a job. He works for his parents, but really he doesn't do anything. They basically just pay him to exist. They know that he's lazy and that all he really cares about is chasing skirt. I, on the other hand, I work in tech and have amassed a small fortune, and I know that my husband has always hated me for this. This is where you're all going to blame me for this. I gave him access to my money when we were planning our wedding. Part 2 is up. My husband spent all my money on another woman. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After I gave the loser access to my bank account because I thought we were in love, I thought he would get money from me every now and then for the wedding planning. But after the 3rd time I found out he cheated on me, I changed the password to all my accounts. I thought he didn't have access. But it turns out that he put something on my computer which memorizes everything I type, so he could see everything that I was doing on my account. This is when I found a love letter in his pocket. Turns out he was cheating on me with our local bank teller. That's when I finally realized I needed to divorce him. Weeks later, when we're finalizing the divorce, I look at my account and realize I only have $20,000 in there. So I file a police report. This is when the police found out that he had been sending himself money from my account and that he was giving it to this bank teller woman, and she put a down payment to a house. My husband's lawyer claims that it was all fair because I gave him access to the account. That was my money. My father almost ran him over with a car, and his parents keep defending him. I'm taking him to court next week. Oh yeah, and the woman, she ended up leaving him because he was cheating on her too. Bye. Story time about how my dad cheated on my stepmom with my stepsister. Yeah. So a little background information. I was 14 years old in an 8th grade, and my mom and dad had gotten divorced after like 15 years of being together. And by the title of this story time, you guys probably aren't surprised at this, but he did not take long to remarry at all. He got married literally in that same year. And we're going to call my stepmom Stephanie and my stepsister Leslie. At first, everything was normal. But then after a little bit, I started finding the relationship that my dad and Leslie had super weird. They would text each other all the time. They had way too many inside jokes. And they had long, weird eye contact. My thing is like, how are you going to have a better relationship with your stepdaughter than you have with your own daughter? Anyways, so obviously, I'm not sitting here thinking that they have a secret relationship or anything like that. I'm just thinking that it's weird. But the one night, Leslie Snapchats me and she's like, I effed up really bad. And I respond and I'm like, what do you mean? And she just left me on red. I go to my dad's room because I need his charger, and that's whenever I see Leslie's jacket laying on the bed, which is weird because Leslie and I don't ever go into our parents' room. So obviously, I just think it's weird. I brush it off again. Well then, not that long later, I went into our room and I saw Leslie's phone open on our nightstand with text between her and my dad. And y'all, I felt like I was going to projectile vomit whenever I saw these text messages. It was my dad saying, I can't stop thinking about you. And Leslie like, I wish we didn't have to sneak around, blah, blah, blah. So me, I screenshot all this and I sent it to my mom. And my mom did not hesitate to tell Stephanie what the F was going on. Obviously, at first, Stephanie's like, no, like that can't be, blah, blah, blah. And then my mom sends the receipts. Later on that night, whenever my dad came home, that house exploded. Stephanie was screaming and crying and throwing things at him. And my dad just stood there like a deer in headlights. I mean, at that point, what are you supposed to say? But at the same time, I don't know. And Stephanie kicked him out on the spot, as she should. Immediately after that, Stephanie filed for divorce and my dad moved out of state, probably because he didn't want to deal with the consequences of his own actions. But here's the crazy part.
Whenever Leslie sent me a text saying I messed up bad, she wasn't even talking about the fact that she was effing around with my dad. She was talking about the fact that she was pregnant. Yeah. And I don't even know what happened with that baby, and I don't want to know.
This is so embarrassing, but I sharted my pants before I got on a flight. Get ready with me while I tell you one of the most embarrassing things that ever happened to me. I was in LA and I was invited to a brand event. It was amazing catering at the event, which I loved. Best part is they had really nice salads. Served myself one plate of salad, and then I followed up with a second plate. Then finally I thought, you know what? I really just want a little bit more salad. I'm gonna go ahead and get a third plate. After the third plate, I was good. I went home. The following day, I'm flying out to Miami. Show up to the American Airlines lounge, and I proceed to eat 3 plates of cottage cheese. Straight up cottage cheese because I need protein, right? Then I had un cafecito con leche. These are 2 things that I never eat for breakfast. 2.5 hours later, I'm walking to my gate. Feel a little fart coming on. I push, and it's, you know what, very small amount. I run to the bathroom, and thankfully nothing got on me. When I land in Miami, I had enough time to go home, shower, and get ready for this hood event. Now tell me this, is this what I get for avoiding carbs, trying to eat protein, being healthy, and choosing the salad? Because what kind of punishment is that for trying to be good? This was me at the event. Could you tell that I had gone through all of that very morning? Who can relate?
Okay, so today I wanted to do a video of how I would do my makeup if I were going to prom in 2025, but I also figured that I would tell you guys a story time about how my first ever prom was ruined because of my ex-boyfriend. So yeah, and we're gonna be doing the makeup to match this dress because this was my first prom dress. Okay, so a little background information. I was 16 and a sophomore in high school, and my man and I have been dating for like 4 months at this point, okay? He bought our prom tickets, and this was his junior prom, so I wasn't even supposed to go to prom this year. But that's besides the fucking point. One thing about my ex is that he smoked a lot. Like, I'm talking, he would come pick me up in the morning before school and he would smoke for like an hour before we went in. So we wouldn't go in an hour late. He would literally wake up early as hell, pick me up from my house at 6:30, and then we would go sit for an hour. I don't know how he did that and was even able to act like a human being, but yeah, that was my man. And he hung out with these 2 kids that were known for selling. Trust me, I know that this sounds like the most overdramatic shit in the world, but listen, back then, this is whenever everybody thought that if you smoked weed, you were doing crack. Literally. Yeah, he hung out with these 2 kids that sold, and eventually word got around in school that my man was bringing illegal substances to school. My school thought that they were after Pablo Escobar, okay? The reason why they thought that he was bringing stuff to school was because the one morning, I don't think he picked me up, but he picked up those 2 kids that I was telling you about, and when they got out of his car, a baggie dropped out of the car, and this baggie had weed in it. And of course, they didn't notice, so a teacher saw it on the ground and picked it up, and they were like, oh wow, that's blah blah blah's car. He was dropping off blah blah blah, and they already knew what was going on. So now there's rumors going around school that my man's gonna have his car searched the next time that he brings it to school. Now my man knew not to bring his car to school. And my man didn't really bring stuff to school. I mean, maybe he would some days if he didn't have his car and he was going over somebody's house after, but even then he would rarely do that. But he would come into school every day smelling like straight gas. Well then, finally, the one day, he had brought stuff to school, and at this point, the teachers, the principals, and everybody, they were tired of waiting for him to bring his car to school. So they were like, you know what? We're gonna search him. They search him, and they find a baggie with like 2 grams in it. So of course, you know, they call his parents to the school, and whenever they call them to the school, they're like, yeah, so here's what's gonna happen. Either he's gonna do inpatient rehab, and we're not gonna expel him, or he doesn't have to go, but blah, 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 blah is going to happen, and he's going to be expelled. His parents sent him to inpatient rehab. He was there for 3 months. And this was after we bought the prom tickets. I brought my prom dress and everything. And I wasn't really close with him or his family at this point, so I didn't even know what was going on. My man's not answering me. Nobody knows where the fuck he is. So because my man just fell off the face of the earth, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take his bus home today, and I'm going to see what the hell is going on. So the bus drops me off at his house, and I go inside. That's when they told me that he got sent away to a rehab. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, why isn't he answering his phone? And they're like, oh, they took his phone away from him. So now, the only thing that I could do was write letters to him, and they could only be sent to him on Sunday. Now I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, my prom is ruined, but I can't tell anybody what's going on, because if my family would have found out, I would have found myself in some kind of fucking mental institution. So I had to keep that under wraps. I'm pretty sure that this happened like 2 weeks before prom. So fast forward, prom day comes around, I got my hair and makeup done, and now it's time to take pictures. And my whole family's like, oh, where's your date? Like, where is he? So I have to come up with some whole elaborate story about why I have to meet him at prom. And my boyfriend's best friend kind of knew the whole situation of what was going on and like how strict my family was. So he was like, okay, don't worry, like I'll come pick you up from your house. So he comes to pick me up at my house, and I would never let them see that a boy was coming to pick me up. So they were like, oh, who's that? And they're trying to look out the window, and I'm like, oh, bye, you know, they're gonna take me to prom, bye. And then I ended up going to my ex's house and hanging out with my
Boyfriend's mom
and my boyfriend's best friend. And yeah, that was my prom, and for the next few months I was writing love letters to my boyfriend who was in rehab. And I would only do my makeup like this for prom if I was wearing that dress, but if I wasn't, I'd probably go with something a little bit more natural or nude. Happy prom!
Am I an asshole for lying to my boyfriend about being pregnant just to keep him in a relationship? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sent me on Instagram. His mom started planning the baby shower and there was no turning back. Even my mom got involved in the planning of the baby shower. So like I said, I'm really not pregnant at this point. So I started trying to get pregnant, but my damn boyfriend just wouldn't touch me. I decided to check his phone again and saw that he was still talking to some girls on Instagram. So I decided to confront him at this point. I mean, we are engaged and I'm supposedly pregnant with his baby. I confronted him and he just got angry at me. He said that if he was gonna marry me and have a baby with me, he would need to talk to other girls and that was not a negotiation for him. Then he confessed that he was seeing 2 other girls on the side and that there was no way he was gonna stop seeing them and that I couldn't do anything about it. But his confession actually made me fall out of love with him. Now I'm planning to break up with him. But what do I do about the fake pregnancy? I do want to make him pay for what he said to me, but I don't want to hurt our families either. Should I just come clean? What should I do? My father-in-law is forcing my husband to break up with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. This is a 3-part story time and I'm doing a full face of pink makeup today. My husband and I have been married for 2 years. Now, we did get married very, very young. By very young, I mean I was 18 and he was 19. When we started dating in high school, his dad was totally against the relationship. See, my husband was super popular. He played on the football team. All the girls chased him. He also played basketball and was perfect at everything he did. As you can imagine, was extremely strict with him. He was not even allowed to go out on weekends. Me, on the other hand, my parents are pretty much hippies. They let me do whatever I want. We're all very spiritual. My parents have full trust in me. Because of this, I make smart decisions. I actively seek my parents' advice. I even told my parents I lost my virginity when I did. And we had a big conversation about it. It was not dramatic. It was not like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. They just support me in everything I do. Now, my husband's parents are not the same. They tell him not to do a lot of things. They try to control him. So as we were dating in high school, his dad kept telling him to break up with me. He claimed that I was holding him back and that because of me, he spent less time training, which technically, yes, is true. But at the same time, you cannot stop your son from experiencing human relationships. In fact, he actually broke up with me for 2 weeks, but then we got back together in secret. Everything culminated when he asked me to marry him right after graduation. His parents were absolutely against it, but my parents were all for it. You guessed it, go to part 2. My father-in-law wants my husband to break up with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I was sending me on Instagram. This is a 3-part story time and I'm doing a full face of pink makeup. When he asked me to marry him right out of high school, his parents absolutely freaked. They went to my parents' house and told me off for saying yes. In other words, they were completely blaming me for the whole thing, as if their own son didn't go buy a ring and ask me to marry him. He even did a beautiful proposal, which he had been planning for months. But at this point, his parents didn't even know that we were boyfriend and girlfriend. When they came to my house, his mom, my now mother-in-law, started crying and yelling at me. She told me that I was ruining their family, that I was trying to steal her son, and that all I really cared about was their money. By the way, my parents were middle class, but we were not destitute. His parents are very rich. They own several businesses. But of course, I'm not after their money. That's when they said that if we did end up getting married, I would have to sign a prenup. And I said, yeah, I want to marry him because I'm in love. At this point, his parents knew they couldn't stop us. We were going to get married with or without their approval. But thankfully, his parents came around and let us get married. We had a quaint, small wedding. It was so magical. But his parents wanted him to go to college to play football. In other words, they wanted him to be the next Tom Brady. They made him train for hours, and they didn't even let us live together for the first year we were married. And because they were supporting him, he couldn't say no. They had us on a schedule. Could only see him for about 2 to 3 hours a day. And we were married. 2 years later, he's playing for a football team. But his parents keep thinking that I'm dragging him down. So now they're trying to convince him to leave me. Go to part 3. My father-in-law is trying to convince my husband to divorce me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, and this is the final part of the 3-part story time, doing a full face of pink makeup. After a year of us being married, his parents did not allow us to live together because he needed to focus on football. So obviously, I was living with my parents. I was focusing on my own studies, but his parents did allow us to see each other 2 to 3 hours a day. Now, you might think my husband is a total pushover, but let me explain something. His parents paid for all of his training and his entire college tuition. They gave him the best of everything. He got sports massages every single day. They even installed a cold plunge in their backyard. They also had a full gym setup where he and his teammates would go work out every single day in their house. Obviously, he did not have time for little old me. After a year of this, I couldn't take anymore. I wanted to be with my husband. So I gave him an ultimatum. Daddy tell his parents that he and I wanted to live together. That's all I wanted. I was even willing to pay for half of the rent. And he told his parents, they said fine. And they bought us a house. Obviously under my husband's name, not mine. Fast forward another year up until now. I've heard his dad tell him on several occasions that he needs to divorce me. That he could find a much prettier wife once he becomes bigger in the NFL. And I walked in on his mom telling him that maybe I can't even have kids. And that he should have me checked. My parents-in-law hate me. I sometimes feel like I am holding him back. They make us miserable. My parents think I should just walk away from the marriage, but I'm too in love. Should I confront my parents-in-law? Help me think of what I should say to them. My husband signed up for my sister's OnlyFriends. Should I divorce him? Disclaimer, not my story time, is send me on Instagram. My husband and I have a really toxic relationship. When he and I first started dating, I was extremely jealous. I would instigate fights almost every single day. Now that we're married, I'm definitely less jealous. But he's always been jealous throughout our relationship. He tries to control everything I do, down to the way I dress and even the people I can or cannot hang out with. He even insisted that I quit my job, which I did. He's invested a lot in Tesla and crypto, so he makes a lot of money without having to leave the house. Which, yes, is totally amazing. But that means he and I are together all the time. And with his jealousy, sometimes I just can't stand him. I've tried to help him with his jealousy because I used to be in that place. And when I try to talk to him about it, he just gets mad at me. Whenever he sees that I post something on Instagram, he gets angry. He says that I'm looking for attention, which of course I am, but not from guys. Everyone posts on social media because they want to show off their life. A little on my sister. We're identical twins. And we're really, really close. Unfortunately, my sister got laid off from her job last year. That's when she decided to start her OnlyFriends. I support her in everything she wants to do. She's actually making really good money from it, so she's really happy about it. A few days ago, I got on my husband's phone to look for something. When I see my sister's pictures, part 2 is up. My husband signed up for my sister's OnlyFriends. Should I divorce him? Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's gonna be on Instagram. A few days ago, I got on my husband's phone to transfer some money from his account to mine. When I started looking for his banking app, I noticed something else on his screen. I had never seen this before, so I clicked on it. And as soon as I opened it, I see my sister's pictures. And I knew it was her OnlyFriends right away. By the way, I had never told my husband that my sister had an OnlyFriends. She wouldn't even post about it on her social media. So the fact that he found it makes me believe that he had my phone bugged or something. But here's the thing. He was using a different name for his account, so it was likely that my sister did not know it was him. From there, I could see that he was following a bunch of other girls. And when I went to their messages, he had paid over hundreds of dollars every single day to all of these girls. Can you imagine how much money that is? My husband came into the room and saw me on his phone. Of course, he didn't freak out because he never thought that I would find it. But I confronted him right away. But he didn't even flinch. He said he had every right to go on OnlyFans because it was the same thing as going to any website. I told him to at least unfollow my sister, and he said that he wouldn't. He said he loved it because it was like watching me do naughty things. Then he said, "Isn't this better than cheating on you?" I was flabbergasted. Part 3 is up. My husband signed up for my sister's OnlyFriends. Should I divorce him? Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's gonna be on Instagram. That's when he told me that it was better than him cheating on me. And I was shocked. I couldn't think of anything else to say, so I threatened him. I told him that if he didn't stop following my sister, that I would start my own OnlyFriends account. Like I said, he's really jealous. So he went berserk. He ripped my phone out of my hand and threw it against the wall. Then he told me that the only reason he asked me to quit my job was so that I wouldn't be around other men. By the way, I used to be a personal trainer, and most of the time I would only train women. I told him that my sister and I wouldn't be comfortable with him looking at our OnlyFriends. It was so disturbing. Oh, and I also told him that he needed to stop controlling me, and that I could buy my own phone with my own money and start my own account. Then he came to his senses and started to apologize. And I also told him that I was suspecting that he bugged my phone, and that he was receiving my messages, because there was no other way he could have found out about my sister's account. Then he calmed down and explained things to me. He said that he had bugged my phone a few months ago because I was posting too much on Instagram and it was bothering him. So basically, he has access to my DMs and all my text messages. Promised to stop doing that and that he would buy me a new phone. And that's how he found out about my sister's OnlyFriends. He said he only signed up out of curiosity, and that he only wanted to see a few pictures and then delete it. But the more he kept looking at her pictures, the more he would think of me, and that it turned him on. And in front of me, he deactivated his account and deleted everything. He promised me that he would never do that again. Of course, I haven't forgiven him though. Haven't even spoken spoken to him in days, but every time he sees me, he tries to kiss me and hug me. And when I push him away, he tries even harder. Honestly, I think he likes it. I do believe that he's secretly addicted to drama and that he thrives on it. I'm planning on never telling my sister about it. I don't think she'd feel comfortable around him ever again. I mean, I don't feel comfortable around him right now. I'm so confused and I don't know if I should leave him or not. He's so controlling all the time. What should I do? My husband paid for all of my plastic surgery because he wanted me to be perfect. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's sending me on Instagram. 4 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with terminal cancer. He was given 8 months to 1 year. But you're never gonna guess what my husband's biggest fear was. He was afraid that I would end up alone. His dying wish was for me to remarry, but we both knew that might be a little bit hard. I was already 55. I also gained 40 pounds after we found out about his cancer, and I started taking care of him. We were never able to have kids either, so he knew that I would be completely alone. One day he tells me that he's willing to spend whatever it takes for me to get plastic surgery, for me to feel better about myself, which will make it easier for me to meet other men and possibly get married. I ended up getting fat transfer, a deep plane facelift, breast implants, my nose, filler, and Botox. After 8 months, I was finally healed. After healing, I also managed to lose 20 pounds. Not only did my husband live long enough to see my new body, he actually set me up on dates. And by the time my husband died, I was planning my next wedding. I am now married and a stepmother to 7 kids. I miss my husband. He died in my arms with a smile on his face. I will always be grateful to him. Am I an asshole for lying to my boyfriend about being pregnant just to keep him in a relationship? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. It was sending me on Instagram. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 5 years. Granted, we did break up throughout those 5 years. With all the breakups, we've actually been together for about 3 years. I've never considered myself an obsessive person, but when it comes to him, something just takes over me. Here's some of the reasons why we broke up. At first, he didn't want to be in a relationship even though I begged him, which I know was so dumb of me. So he eventually broke up with me and told me that he didn't want anything serious. But he kept on calling me every single week because he wanted the dirty. Instead, I started going out on other dates and I would flaunt it all over my social media. And this worked. It made him super jealous and he came right back to me. Called me up one day and told me that he wanted me back. The second time we broke up, I caught him talking to some girls on Facebook. When I confronted him, he broke up with me. Told me I was too nosy and that he needed to live his life as a single man. We finally got back together. I told him that it was for marriage. He said yes, that he would eventually ask me to marry him. A few months ago, he started acting really cold towards me. He would barely call me and when we were together, he would never touch me. That's when I started digging in his phone and I found that he was talking to some girls on Instagram. But I knew that if I confronted him, I would risk him breaking up with me again. So I did the next logical thing. I waited until I saw him again and I told him that I was pregnant. I even started to cry to make him feel like I was happy. His face turned completely white and he asked me if I was sure. I said yes. Aren't you happy, baby? Part 2 is up. Am I the asshole for lying to my boyfriend about being pregnant just so that I could keep him in a relationship? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. I sent him on Instagram. That's when he started to cry. Remember, I don't even have a pregnancy test to show or anything, but surprisingly, he didn't ask for proof of my pregnancy. He just kept crying on the couch. I asked him if he was happy, but clearly he was not. But he lied and said, yeah, of course I'm happy. Seeing how vulnerable he was, I took advantage of the situation and I brought up marriage. I told him we should get engaged soon so that we could tell his family. Then he said, are you sure you want to get married? And I said, of course, we're gonna have a baby. Then he sat there for a minute and thought about it. Finally, he got down on one knee and said, do you want to marry me? I said yes! And this time I cried for real. All my dreams were coming true. After that, things started moving really fast. We invited both our families to my apartment and we hosted a dinner. We broke the news to them that I was pregnant. Again, nobody asked for proof of the pregnancy though. Our families were so happy and excited. That very same night, he gave me a beautiful engagement ring. His mom even started planning the baby shower. Let me remind you, I'm actually not pregnant. So I had to come up with a plan. You'll never guess what I did. Part 3 is